Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is J.J. Carrell. He's a documentary filmmaker. His new documentary coming out in just a week now, I think. When is it coming out?
It comes out on Friday, man. Time is stressing me out. It's Friday, it comes out.
Epic. It's called This is Treason.
This is Treason, and there's a backstory to it. We had two documentaries. One documentary filmed, and out of it came two, and I'd love to discuss that with you because it ties into what we're going to just talk about today. But first, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I love your story about where you're at and having me on, so I appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, guys, you can find him at jjcarrell.com. That's RRL. And I invited JJ on to talk about basically the mass immigration problems going on in the US and honestly around the world, Canada and Europe as well, kind of get the flip side of the coin. Anyone who follows My Latin Life on Twitter knows we've been kind of delving our foot into, commenting and following some of these accounts because it is kind of what we do, but in reverse. JJ, one thing we do at My Latin Life is we help Canadians, Americans, and Europeans relocate to Latin America, either as a plan A or a plan B, help people get residency in Mexico and Costa Rica, et cetera, and internationalize, get second passports and so forth. So I've been having so much fun on Twitter following all the migrant stuff. It just gets more nuts every day. And hopefully you could fill us in on kind of what you're seeing on the ground today.
Well, I think before we get started, this is a great distinction that has to be made, and you're making it with the reverse migration. Legal immigration is incredible. It's awesome. Some of the greatest patriots in America, like currently and in past, are people that naturalized to become U.S. citizens. Because why? Because the majority of people that are coming over here are coming for a better life. They're running away, if you will, from oppression, tyranny, empire, like kingdoms, and they want that freedom and opportunity in America. And we do that legally in America. 1.2 million legal immigrants come to America every year. If you want that number changed, then let's go down how we do it in our republic, and we go to the floor of the House and the Senate, and we create a law and change that number, and we vote on it. But to just do this willy-nilly, it's not willy-nilly. It's intentional and strategic, bringing in right now 30 million people in 4 years. That does no one any good. In fact, that destroys America. If your nation does not have sovereignty, then it's just a piece of land people travel through. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to kind of kick things off by hearing your backstory and how you got into all this.
Well, my father was my dad passed away. He was a hero of mine. He was a Secret Service agent from LBJ all the way to Bush Jr. And I watched him. I watched him do a job that had a lot of great meaning and authority and power and responsibility. And my father was he was a hero, someone I modeled myself after, both as a career and as a father and a husband. And I wanted to get into law enforcement after I came out of college. I played college football. Dream, obviously, is everybody wants to go to the NFL and play. That just wasn't in the cards. So I knew that I wanted to be in law enforcement. It was 1997 to be exact, and I could not get into any law enforcement agency because everyone, there was a hiring freeze, government shutdown. The only group that were hiring was the United States Border Patrol. And my father said, "Hey, I think you would really like this. And if you don't like it, everyone goes and hunts in the Border Patrol and recruits out because we become bilingual. We do a different type of job, a different type of work." And I said, "Yeah, let me try it." And there was no leaving it once I got in it, man. I loved it. I didn't want to wear a suit and tie like my father and guard a president. That was incredible work. And I didn't want to go in the FBI, wear a suit and tie, and do these long range investigations. I know how kind of I'm built. I need kind of not instant gratification, but I like to see the fruits of my labor, and being outside and being free with no one really watching you. I thrived in that environment. I came to the border. I started in the United States Border Patrol in 1997. I rose up in the ranks from a journeyman agent to supervisor, and ultimately a deputy patrol agent in charge in San Diego sector. And I cut my teeth down the most violent part of the border, the Tijuana border, for over a decade. And then I ran a large task force that just went after human smuggling, narcotic boats, uh, and ripped Sinaloa drug cartels, narcotic loads night after night after night on the Pacific Ocean coastline.
Hmm.
And the border, what I don't know if a lot of people know, maybe you do, coming back and forth, or have just not even coming back and forth, just kind of being on that landscape in the border. The border is a very violent, desolate, hopeless, horrible place. Horrible.
Hmm.
And the weak get devoured, right? It just gets devoured. The landscape devours it, the terrain devours it. The human smugglers, narcotic smugglers are ruthless. And I know this says a great deal about me, positive, but I also very acutely aware it says a lot or some bad about me, is that in that horrific environment, God built me for it and I thrived in it and I was good at what I did and I loved it. I loved the physicality of it, the intellectual part of it, of how I'm going to prosecute drug smugglers, child rapists, everything you can imagine. How am I going to do that? How am I going to lead men when I became a supervisor? And that's how I got in and stayed in it. I never went anywhere else. I did 24 years in San Diego sector. I worked the whole eastern corridor of California, meaning the whole state of California, the coastlines up to San Francisco, and then all of Arizona's border. So I have
Hmm.
a very unique perspective of what we're going to talk about today. Just from experience alone, I wrote a book called Invaded. It was a bestseller on Amazon, and now I'm a documentary filmmaker. So I have a very unique perspective of what we're going to talk about today as far as illegal immigration.
Hmm. So you were in the truck, you got the aviators on, all that.
I wasn't a big aviators guy because I would lose them. Because when you're on the border, and I was an ATV guy, so we rode ATVs. I had a unit of my own. Um, So when people crossed in where I worked, it was on the Tijuana border. And when people that were criminal aliens and got served their jail time, they would be picked up by the old INS, and now which is ICE, and deportations, and they'd be deported back into Mexico. They wouldn't stay in Mexico. A lot of them had been in America their whole lives. They would just come back. So all I was arresting were rapists, child predators, murderers, gang members, drug dealers. So every single day, basically every single shift of my life, shift, not the whole day, just my shift, I was assaulted or attempted to be assaulted, or I was in fights, because it's violent. It, I understand, I'm very acutely aware that there's a significant percentage of people that want a better life. At the same time, there is a significant percentage of people that cross the border that just want to rape and pillage our nation. And that's what I experienced for 24 years.
Hmm. So you got some pretty good martial arts skills.
I don't do martial arts. I'm just the old school American. Let's just do it with my hands. We are by policy with our weapon, our sidearm. We have to have a secondary tool, be it an asp like a steel baton or OC spray. So I carried those things, but I never used them. I figured if I can't control somebody with my hands, then I'm going straight to my gun. There's no way I'm going to, if I can't, I'm 6'3", 230 at the time. If I can't control and handle myself, which there were times that were very on the edge there, um, there's no mace or batons going to help me out. Right. So
Hmm.
um, there were times, man, down on there. It's just, I
You're
don't really know
busting
how to.
kneecaps.
Yeah, you know what? You know when you're in a fight, and you know when you're growing up, you get in a fight and it's okay, I'm gonna punch that person or that, and then somebody will break it up. It's not law enforcement is a different ball game. Once that fight starts, man, it is, you make them submit or they're gonna kill you. That's just, there's no way
Hmm.
around it. or they're going to physically hurt you to a point where it's going to be a significant problem in your life. So yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. I don't think law enforcement in any agency or department, and I wasn't. And I'm very. Let's make the distinction too that I'm very aware of. I've seen it, right? The 80-20 rule, the eight or the 70-20-10 rule, where you have 70% of the people don't do much, 20% are kind of just administrative, do stuff, and there's that 10% that basically do all the hard work.
Mhm.
The guys that actually do that hard work, the small percentage of law enforcement soldiers and all that, that ain't for the faint of heart. Just not. You got to be cut from a different cloth, and you have to be willing to do things that other people would cringe or fear having to do without hesitation.
I'm sure you got some stories. I wanted one or two more housekeeping things. Is it Carroll or Carrell? Like,
It's
Steve
Carol.
Carroll?
Yeah,
Because there's like
Carol.
Steve Carell, the actor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My name actually was made up. My father is a Native American, and my great grandfather's brothers could not purchase land because they were Indians, and they made up a white name, and they named with one R and one L, and finally somewhere between them and now they added another R and another L, maybe because it looked more white, I guess, and that's how my name
Yeah,
came to
it
be.
sounds Irish.
Yeah, yeah, maybe right.
Okay. And according to Twitter, it has your location as Kansas. So is that where you're based now? You moved on from the border area or California?
Yeah, I did. I lived there, San Diego, for 24 years. It used to be the most beautiful, magical place that you can ever imagine, just like you see in the movies. And it's not that anymore. It's just not. $6 a gallon gas. Average home price is about $1 million. Taxes is beyond realm. And I'm a Christian, and the moral insanity became unbearable. It just the beauty when I was single, the moral decadence was okay. Like I can sift through that. But now that I'm married and I have a son, and my son, I have to grow my son, raise my son to be a strong Christian man ready to go into this world.
Hmm.
I can't stay there, man. And there's a lot of people like me. My wife is from Kansas, so we moved back to Kansas. Beautiful place, no beaches in Kansas, no 7-degree weather, but it fits us. So that's how I made my way to Middle America.
And how did you ultimately retire from the force? And then probably there was like a buffer period. And then how did you decide to sort of reinvent yourself and write books and make documentaries?
Well, that's a great question. My last year, I had a goal when I joined the Border Patrol. I wanted to be, it was called a patrol agent in charge. I wanted to run my own station in San Diego sector or Texas, wherever, Arizona. And I was on my way. I was a deputy patrol agent in charge, so it was number two of a station in San Diego sector. And then I watched the election happen with a lot of Americans, and in shock that, okay, how did this happen? And Donald Trump lost, because I wanted to continue my career. I had 24 years and I could go another 3, 4, 5 years. I can attain my goal of being a patrol agent in charge. But Joe Biden became president. And we went from the most secure border in the history of the United States of America to day one, instantly, to absolute utter chaos and criminality, meaning everything that is happening now on the border has never been done, and it's never been done before because it's against the law. The Immigration Nationality Act, the INA, as we call it, forbids everything that's happening today. Can't do it. It's illegal. So I suffered through that for about 6 to 9 months, and I looked at my wife and I said, I can't be a part of this anymore. I'm leaving. We're out. And we did a quick stop in South Dakota. Fell in love with that state. And when I went to South Dakota for the first, I want to say about 8 months, 9 months, I wouldn't talk to anybody about immigration. I could not stomach it. I couldn't. I was in 24 years of it. I did from the ground up all the way to the senior leadership position, and I hated it. I hated what I knew was going to happen since Joe Biden took office. Now, I'll be very honest. I could never, ever, never contemplate or understand what ultimately would happen. There's no one could understand what's transpired on the border to present day. I left. Friends would call me, colleagues would call me, and I would just tell them I would love to talk to you, but we can talk about anything in the world except the border. I don't want to talk about it at all. TV shows would come on. My wife would say, "JJ, they're talking about, where you were at the unit that you ran." Nope, I'd walk out. I wouldn't do it. And then one day, my wife said, what are you going to do, man? You just going to not do anything with this anymore?" And kind of convinced me that, hey, you got to get back in this fight, right? So she said, had a great advice. She said, you've always wanted a voice. The best way to get a voice is to write a book. And I wrote a book, became a bestseller on Amazon. Um, and then the interviews just started, right? Everyone finds out who you are, that you have the ability to articulate your views, you have your ability to articulate exactly what's happening, have inside knowledge, and it grew from there. And I started doing my own podcast, um, writing on Substack. I'm starting to write my second book, and then out of nowhere, I've always wanted to do a documentary, but I couldn't do it because of the nexus it created with my job, right? So I had to wait to get out, and I had people that wanted to do it with me. Followed up on that when I retired, and we just didn't align. I didn't want to do a soft piece. I didn't want to do Maria's crossing the border to get a better life, right? That's
Yeah.
true, right? There's that story, but that's not the story, my friend. The story is the United States of America is being intentionally and strategically changed right in front of our eyes. This isn't a race or ethnic or nationality demographic shift. No, 180 nations out of 190 nations on planet Earth are in the arrest report data of the United States Border Patrol, meaning the whole world's here. So I had a gentleman by the name Ryan Matta contact me
Mhm.
out of the blue, saw me on a podcast, and said, "Oh, that's the guy. That's the guy I want to do this documentary with." He's been down the border for 3 years, and he and I had a Zoom meeting, and we went through all this, what we wanted to do. And then a month later, we were filming, and we've been filming for 4 solid months, 4.5. Now we're in the finally, thank God, getting through the first documentary of editing, which is a nightmare, right? I've never done it. He's done it, but I'm very excited. I'm actually going to see my first rough cut of it today, and I've
You're
seen
launching
some
it
on
this week and you
Friday.
haven't seen a cut yet?
No, that's how crazy. If you have, again, let me have a minute to explain how that happened. It's so when we were going to release our documentary called "What Is Treason" in October 10th, right? We go on this journey. I have a very distinct idea of exactly how I want our documentary to be, right? Absolutely, I know exactly what it's going to be. Go in, we start filming, starting in San Diego, and dang it, man, did everything change. And I knew it. I instinctively knew it. My partner knew it. And we were like, okay, when we get through this documentary is going to be completely different than what we thought. And we had no idea of how it would change. Because what changed was the border is kind of like in three or four parts. You have the invasion, which actually happened, who's coming, how many. Then you have who's doing it, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. Then you have
Hmm.
the manifestation of what does it look like in America as far as social decay, benefits, financial destruction, crime. And
Hmm.
then the other part is the human suffering, right? There's unimaginable human suffering that causes. Inside that human suffering is child sex trafficking. I knew we were going to have to talk about it. I knew it was going to be a significant part of this documentary because it's so evil and it's so horrific. What I did not know is how big it was. And then about a third way through filming our documentary, 4 months, we looked at each other as we're driving across Texas from one child detention facility to the next. And we were like, dear God, man, we're going to have to do a documentary just on child sex trafficking. It is so grotesque, it is so evil, and it is so enormous. And we made a deal. Okay, if God lets us sell enough copies of this and make a profit, we'll turn around and we will go out right away in November and begin filming. It'll take us about 2 or 3 months, and then we got to get some financing. And so about 9 months away, we'll be done. Ryan
Sorry,
calls
what's
me.
KF guy or what is that the production company? You said something there?
No, Ryan Matta. Ryan Madden
Yeah,
Media.
Ryan Mata Media.
Yeah.
Okay, you said
So,
something like if
oh,
we
if
sell
God,
enough
yeah,
copies.
if we sell enough copies in our mind back
Okay,
in May, if we sell enough copies, DVDs, downloads of What is Treason, then Ryan and I were going to go back out
okay,
and begin filming immediately the
uh
child
huh.
sex trafficking. 3 weeks ago, Ryan calls me and says, "Man, he started the editing process. Right? He's been doing it for about 2 weeks. And if you've done editing, I'm sure you have with your podcast. It's arduous, right? It's a full time sit yourself in a basement and grind through it, you know." And he went dark for like 2 weeks. I didn't talk to him. He said, "Don't call me. I'm just with my team." And I said, "Yeah, dude, whatever. You do what you got to do. I'm here for you. I'm going to can keep doing interviews, etc., and publicity." And he called me. He says, "Okay, man, we got to talk. There's no way I can get this child sex trafficking inside What is Treason. It is so big." And I said, he said, the irony is, JJ, we have already filmed so much that we can prove exactly what you and I wanted to prove. He says, I can make 3 documentaries with the footage we have just on child sex trafficking. So we made a decision. Let's go ahead and let's do it. Let's just let's do 2. And then let's do it for the cost of 1. We're not going to charge anyone. We're not going to change anything on our website. You order What is Treason, you get 2 documentaries. And
Mm,
why we decided it was a moral decision too, if you will. We had 2 documentaries and we had the first one already laid out. Well, do we wait on child sex trafficking and put that out, in October, which we're going to do in the invaded part of What is Treason? And we can't. You can't sit on what's happening today.
right,
So
you
we
just want
made
to get it out there.
got to get it out, right? And it was a
Okay.
rush. And then we had a film, 1A Film Festival in Texas reached out and said, "Hey, is there any way that you can get this thing done?" And we're like, yeah, we'll get it done. So see the rough cut today. I trust Ryan. He's my business partner, but I trust him completely. And I know because I've seen some of it. I'm telling you, when you see what we've are going to expose, you're never going to be able to see it again. And what our thesis is that the United States federal government is the largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. And they have brought in 500,000 children called UACs from ages infants to 17. They have brought them into America and they cannot find any of them.
What's the
500,000.
UAC stand for?
I'm sorry, unaccompanied alien children. So
Okay.
when someone crosses the border with no parents, and we have to process them as quick as we can under 72 hours under a Flores agreement, and then we release them. And we release them to NGOs, non-governmental organizations like Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Jewish Family Services. And then they turn them over to, quote, sponsors. They turn them over to people they do not vet. No DNA test, no interviews, no applications, no nothing. You just, here I am, I want that kid, and you bring them. Right now, there's about 450,000 have been arrested and released. Another 50,000 by the time Joe Biden's term ends in about 4 or 5 months. They have it openly admitted. The Inspector General of Department of Homeland Security has openly admitted 10 days ago that they have lost 320,000 children out of
I saw that.
450.
I saw that on Twitter.
So think about let's try to put this into context, okay? I have a son. I don't know if you have any children. I have a son. You ask me right now, it's about noon in Kansas. My son's finishing up lunch at his school. He's got about another 3 hours. I'm going to pick him up from school. Then we're going to go get a snack. Then I'm going to take him to football practice. And he's going to come back, meaning I know my son, where he is. Like every second. I'm not a helicopter father, but I know where my son is. Never in his lifetime have I ever lost him. How do you lose a child? And I want your audience to understand, when you start talking about child trafficking, there's 3 legs to this stool, okay? The first one is child sex trafficking and labor trafficking. The second is organ harvesting. And the third is child sacrifice. This is happening in America. This is not even disputed. President Trump has said multiple times, and he said it in a speech about 10 days ago, Those 320,000 children, a lot of them are already dead. And that's the truth. A lot of them are already dead. We have no idea where the other ones are. None. The federal government in 2023 admitted to losing 85,000 children. 85,000 on congressional testimony. And know what they did? They did nothing different except accelerate and make it more efficient to move children from the border into America. In Texas, there's over 100 child detention facilities, 100. In America, there's over 400, meaning the federal government has built this apparatus, this ability to move children through the country and disperse them with no follow up. None. Do you know what the welfare check is? You're going to think I'm making this up. Like, this guy's lying. No, I'm telling you the truth. So if you adopt a child, like my son's adopted, there's a long process to that. A lot of money, long process, a lot of follow up, a lot of welfare checks, which I'm all for.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Child Protective Services in the United States, there's follow up, there's checks. Do you know what the check is? After I deliver a child to a cartel member or whoever the hell I'm delivering to, in 30 days, I pick up the phone and I call the phone number. I don't do a Zoom meet like this where I can see him and say, okay, hey, let me see little Maria. Let me see her. Can you get off? Let me talk to Maria, see how she's doing. Nope. I pick up the phone and I say, hey, how's Maria? Oh, she's good. Okay. So out of the 320,000, out of the 450,000, there's 130,000 that are, quote, welfare checked. No, they're not. That I just explained to you what the welfare check was. There's no follow-up. Nobody in the government's going to look. And it's already been proven that the cartels have found major loopholes within the sponsor program. So the cartels are moving their children, which are products, into America. And the Border Patrol and NGOs are actually transporting the children back to the cartels. Never, just so I go back on this, just so your audience
The
has
kids go, they get sent back to Mexico and stuff?
no, the cartels in America.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me explain this, because this is how Mayorkas, who's Secretary of DHS, and the government, they're doing this all in the confines of Department of Homeland Security. So you don't know. You're like, what? I don't understand that verbiage. Let me just explain this. The vast majority, the most significant majority of the children are from Central America, but there are 180 nations of children are coming into America, but the majority is Central American. Central Americans, it's the truth, they either rent or sell their children to the cartels. Okay? Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some other. Cartels bring their child. Let's take little Johnny, little Juan. Juan's 8 years old, from Guatemala. I sell him. I'm the father. I sell Juan. Juan will be raped repeatedly before he ever gets to the border by the cartel members and the smugglers. When it's time for Johnny to cross the border, they're going to staple a note card to Johnny's shirt, like staple it. And on that note card is going to be a name, the address, and the phone number of where he's supposed to go. Border Patrol will arrest that child, bring him in the station, process him as quickly as he can, turn him over to NGOs. NGOs will then pick up the phone, call the number, and say, hey, are you waiting for Johnny or Juan? Yeah, of course I am. Okay, when can we meet you? Well, I live in New York. Okay, I'm going to fly Juan up to you in New York. Okay. Now I hire someone that's called an escort. An escort takes little Juan, flies him to New York. Somebody in New York comes and picks him up. That person doesn't even need to be the sponsor. The person just picking him up just has to have a photo ID, a copy of a photo ID of the person that's supposed to take him. And that photo ID can be as expired as far out as 2 years. 2 years. It doesn't have to be an American ID. It could be a passport. It could be a birth certificate from Guatemala. So what we have done is you have taken kids from cartels, transported them for the cartels, and turned them back over to the same cartel. And this is documented. This is known. It's not an anomaly. It's not a one-off. It's a every single day thing.
So many threads to pick up on here. Um, I knew this one was going to be a little bit dark, but I think we haven't said the name of the second documentary yet. I believe it's called Trafficked.
The first one's Trafficked. It's all about the children. It's called, so we have Umbrella. It was right, What is Treason, right? So we have What is Treason, and we broke it into two now. So the first one will be Trafficked, comes out September 13th, which is Friday. And the second one's called Invaded, all about they're tied at the hip,
Invaded.
but the
Okay.
other one's Invaded, and that comes out on October 24th. We have our first film festival on this Friday, and then we go on September 19th for a screening in New York. And then we do a premiere of the second documentary in Nashville on October 24th. It is, this is a dark subject, but where you live and people you're helping to get into Central America, which I know that's a growing population going
Yeah,
there.
you're sewering my business, bro. No, I'm joking.
No, but this is, when you look at this, look, I take no joy, right? I have zero joy talking about this, doing a documentary, writing a book about it. It's sick, right? I have a son. It, it, it's evil. But when you understand that the United States of America is the number one consumer of child pornography in the world, it begins to make sense. When you understand the United States of America is one of the top nations in the world that pays for child sex, it begins to make sense. When you understand that Jeffrey Epstein was a honeypot that brought in the highest ranking military, highest ranking scientists, highest ranking politicians, highest ranking Hollywood celebs, and honeypotted them with having sex with minors, which is called rape, it begins to make sense. What we're discovering is politicians at the highest level, pedophiles, Hollywood, pedophiles, religion, pedophiles. You go down the list, and that is the thread that runs through and weaves through all of society in America. And it's horrible. And you look at what's happened in the border, 80% of the border, southern border, 2,000 miles, 80% of it, 1,600 miles at any given time of the day, does not have one single Border Patrol agent on it. Unmanned. Unmanned. Tons, thousands of tons of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl pour across our border. It's a sieve. And one of the big questions, really the only question that needs to be asked is why? Why is this happening? Why would your government allow this to happen? Again, if you don't have a border, if you don't have sovereignty, then you're just a piece of land people just trample on to go from point A to point B. And we're beginning to witness it in America now. We're seeing crime skyrocket, housing costs skyrocket,
Yeah,
food, inflation. You have major cities like Aurora, Colorado, outside of Denver, 400,000 is being taken over by Venezuelan gangs.
saw that too.
Think about what I just said. Gangs from Venezuela are taking over neighborhoods, apartment complexes, doing strong arm robberies in the middle of the day. And people say, well, the police will take care of it. No, they won't. The police can't take care of it. Let me give you an example. 2 weekends ago, 4,000 Venezuelans ended up in a shopping mall parking lot and were just ransacking the whole place. And everyone's like, well, the cops are going to show up. There's 4,000 people, with a significant majority of them are gang members with long arms and handguns. And you're going to tell me the police are going to come? Do you know how many police officers reside or work for Aurora PD? Less than 750. Not 7,500, 750. Meaning I was a scheduling supervisor. That means on your best shift of the best day of the week, where you have the most people, you got 100 officers.
Might as well like throw some tear gas or something, right? I don't
But
know.
nothing you're going to get. Who's going to arrest them? Who's going to do? You're going to send 100 guys
Disperse.
into 4,000, right?
Yeah.
Good luck. But that is symbolic now of America. America is falling to the wayside. We are. It's tough, man. For just so your audience understands, 30 million people will have crossed into America in 4 years illegally and been released, not arrested and deported, like the old days 3.5 years ago, just being released into America.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible.
That's a demographic shift. 1 in 6, 1 in 7 Americans, 1 in 6 to 1 in 7 residents are illegal alien in your country. Wow. That's absurdity, dude.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Now, like you and I talked about in the beginning, if you want to change the law and you want to make the 1.2 million legal immigrants that come in 10 million, fine. Then let's have that discussion. And when it is, but my ultimate retort to that is, okay, you come back and you say you want 10 million a year. Okay, great. That's the law. I'm going to follow the law. There's 2 billion people on planet Earth that live in squalor that want to come to America. What do you do with the other 1.99 billion that are trying to come in here? Well, you build a wall. Oh, my wall was racist when I wanted to keep everyone out and allow, orderly, lawful. But your wall is morally right because you brought in 10 million. It's absurd. The whole argument is absurd. But we're living through it today.
And just housekeeping for the audience, we're recording on September 9th. This is probably going to come out last week of September. So At least one of the documents should be out, and you guys can go to the website, jjcarrell.com. I think this is treason.com as well. I wanted to go pick up on something that you mentioned, which is kind of what led you to leaving the force, which is that day one Biden presidency was like night and day, like the policy changed and they started letting more people in. Was that how did that work? Was it like radioed in, like, yo, back off the border, or how was it so dramatic on day one?
Well, this is a great question. So what Donald Trump did is in his last part of his term, because his first term he had Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, who were in charge of the House and Senate. So we had the House, Senate, and presidency. This is a uniparty issue. This is not just a Democrat party. The uniparty, the Republican scumbags, did not help President Trump get anything in. You don't have to like President Trump. I don't even care. The greatest border president in the history of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Period. I lived it my whole life. There wasn't even a second. Like the second was 10 miles away. They're not going to finish their marathon. Donald Trump already went, took a shower, partied, and had a great time with Melania at the night, had an awesome family. He's just enjoying life. The rest of the scumbags, they didn't even make it halfway through the marathon. That's how incredible he was. He made Mexico and the Northern Triangle, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador bend a knee, meaning we were having massive caravans come up the border and we were stopping them, but it was getting overwhelming. So he told them, you are going to stop all these caravans and partaking in this destruction of America, or I'm stopping all your foreign aid. I was there. I watched this happen in real time. And I remember watching the press conference, and all of those presidents said, okay, go pound sand, Donald Trump. You're just like everyone else. You're never going to do it. You're like Bush, Obama. You're like all of them. Reagan, you did everything. And they didn't do it. And he stopped payment for one day because all those nations, as you know, rely heavily on the US dollar for survival. And know what they did the next day? Excuse me, Mr. President, we'll do anything you want. And we watched from that day forward, we watched the numbers fall off a cliff, meaning we are at the point where we were arresting 500 people a day across America, northern border, southern border, 500 a day. That's like a drip on the faucet. Didn't exist. I was sitting there like, I can't believe I got a guy that's got my back and is going to do what America needs and how he needs it. Holy cow, this guy's great. Mm-hmm. Day one, Joe Biden wins in November. He begins to make the message, come to America, you are welcomed. We begin to see massive, massive caravans coming up from Panama into the Darien Gap into Mexico. And day one, we went from 500 arrests. And day one of Joe Biden's administration, we went to 5,000 a day.
So here's one thing I'm curious about, because the word kind of takes time to get out, and we've seen it like get spread on TikTok and things like that. So but was a message also spread on the US side saying like, hey, let them in type of thing on day one? Or you know what I mean? Because there's kind of two messages, right?
Yep. So you're talking about message to law enforcement. The Border
Yeah, to
Patrol?
law enforcement and just the administrators on the US side. Were they told to do anything different from day one?
Yes. We were told to release them all into America. All of them. So let me try to put this in perspective, because when you listen to people like myself talk about policy and law, you kind of get lost, and then you're like, what's he talking about? Let me just break it down to simple terms. 100 years, the United States Border Patrol celebrated 100-year anniversary in May. For 96 and a half years, meaning every day except Joe Biden's presidency, we never did any of this. In my total career in 24 years, directly and indirectly, meaning watching it happen, seeing my colleagues bring them in, run the station, 100,000 arrests. Good, solid number. It's an insane number, but just bear with me, 100,000 arrests. This is true. I released 0 people into America that crossed the border, 100,000. Okay? 0. Why? Because it's against the law. You can't. I can't release it. It's against the Immigration Nationality Act. You cannot release an illegal alien to America. Secretary Mayorkas, who I believe is a traitor, I write in my book, very clear, traitor. He destroyed every immigration policy you can imagine, and then systematically started to release every single person arrested on the border into America. 12 million people will be arrested at the end of Joe Biden's term, and he will have released anywhere from 95 to 97% of every single person that crossed that border. Released them. And then because the open border, meaning there's no one on the border, everyone in the business knows that we have lost between 15 and 18 million illegal aliens. There we get the number 30 million. 30 million is not even argued in the halls of Congress or in the media. They just accept it as, yeah, that's true, 30 million. And that's how we did it. He told us, you're going to release them. And they released them.
So if you were to quote unquote send them back, meaning you catch them in the desert there in Arizona or Texas or
Mhm.
something, how do you actually send them back? Do you drive the truck to the border and then there's a door and then you say, go through that door to the Mexico side? Or how do you actually physically send them back?
So anyone that's arrested in the field gets handcuffed or zip tied, and we bring and put them in one of our vans or buses, and we take them to the border patrol station. We process everyone, so everyone's thoroughly run through DHS database. If you are a criminal, meaning we have no idea what's happened in Mexico, all the other nations, we have no idea. And if you've been arrested before in America, been deported before in America by the border patrol before, and now you're a criminal or felon, you will go to prison. If you have not, then we will simply drive you back to Mexico through a gate at a port of entry and release you back into Mexico. Now, if you are Guatemalan, El Salvadorian, Sudanese, Yemen, wherever, I can't send you to Mexico because you're not a
Right,
Mexican national, and Mexico
right.
will not take them. So we have flights. ICE deportation officers have flights, and we fly people back to the home country. Now, let me explain this is very important. The only president that got to fly people back to their home countries was Donald Trump, because we had El Salvadorian gang members, Venezuelan gang members, Russian mob, we have Chinese, we have everyone. And you know what they all told us? Nope, not taking them back. So what did our federal government do? These gutless bastards in the federal government, I watched this my whole career. Oh, you're not going to take them back? Okay, then release them into America. So the countries wouldn't take back their savages. So we released their savages into America to rape, murder, pillage, and destroy. The only president that said, no, 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 you're taking back all of your people, Donald Trump. So everyone that was being arrested was released into Mexico if they were Mexican. If they were other than Mexican OTMs, we flew them back to the home country. Do you know who doesn't do that anymore either? Biden. Do you know that Venezuela, we have a Venezuelan gang problem in America? Why? Because they emptied their prisons and their insane asylums, and they forced them to make the journey into America. Do you know right now that Venezuela has a 22-year low in murder rate? 22-year low. Why? Because they're all here. And when you look at the percentages of people being murdered in America by illegal aliens, they are Venezuelans.
Because we love on Twitter commenting the word deport and like deportations now under all the news articles and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of curious how the mechanics actually would work. So let's just say you got to deport like Central America. I kind of get. I guess there's direct flights from the
Mhm.
U.S. to these countries. How does it work to deport someone back to Sudan? Because that's a pretty expensive flight. Do we wait until we have enough to fill a plane and then and then what do
Yes.
they how do how does that actually happen? And then they have a layover in New York and then a layover in Cairo and then they end up at the Khartoum airport, or how does that
No,
actually
you
work?
have a lot. These are not commercial flights, they're government flights. So let's say that I have, why would I fly one Sudanese back, right? And there's a connecting flight and then he gets off, or no. So way it works is we have deportation officers, and we'll just get, it's called a 21 day. They go fly around the world in 21 days and stopping in international airports and dropping off the people. Like, get out. You're from Sudan. Welcome back to Sudan. You're from Afghanistan. Welcome back to Afghanistan. You're out. See ya. We
So
never
they
did
put
that
people
before.
from different nationalities on the same flight?
Oh yeah,
Because you don't think they would just wait until they got like 300 Sudanese and then put them all on the same flight or something?
yeah. Because we never had 300 Sudanese before. Not until Joe Biden came in office, and now we have thousands of everybody. So you like I just said, 500 people a day were being arrested. That's the majority were 90 something percent of those 500 were Mexican nationals. So this is a great something you bring up. The word deportation, words have meaning. So when they always say, well, Barack Obama, the deporter in chief, he deported everyone. No, he didn't. When a Mexican national comes across the border and we arrest them, we offer Mexican nationals what's called a voluntary return. They call it VR. You want a voluntary return to Mexico? Yes, I do. If they say, no, I don't, then I set them up for deportation. And I tell them, listen, I'm going to send you to camp. We call it a camp, holding facility. You're going to be there for a week to a month. Then you're going to get deported. You have no right to be here. Do you want to be voluntary returned? Yes. Let me be voluntary. So Obama was taking voluntary returns and counting them as deportations. That's not a deportation. When I send a guy back to Sudan or El Salvador, Costa Rica, wherever, that person has to be formally deported. I set him up, goes in front of a judge, deported, gets on the flight, and flies out. That's how it's done. But everything that we're seeing today is completely bastardized. Nothing today is within the regulations, policy, or law of the INA. It's a lie. They've lied to America. They've turned Border Patrol agents into smugglers, and they are smuggling children and men and women into America. There's no other way to describe it.
So just take like a country that's hard to get to or whatever.
Okay.
So Tibet would be a funny one that's pretty hard to get to, or just like Senegal, which is reasonably easy to get to, I guess. The It's a private government jet that stops off in Senegal, drops off like 10 people, and then flies to Tibet. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
maybe slightly more efficient than that, but flies to Tibet just to drop off like 3 people, and
Mm-hmm.
then flies on to whatever, Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
drops off another 5 people, and they just keep going around the world. That sounds very expensive and inefficient.
Well, let's look at the option, the other option. You release them into America. And now you have someone got raped, someone got murdered. So what price do you put that on?
No, yeah, I get
So
it.
let's go back to President Trump. Okay, let's look at what he was doing. So that would have cost, I don't know, maybe a couple of $100 million in total deportation cost. I'm talking about salaries, everything, right? A couple hundred million in his 4 years, maybe. I'm grossly overstating. Right now, because Joe Biden's allowed so many people in, it costs the federal government anywhere, his numbers, not mine, anywhere 700 billion to over $1 trillion in 4 years.
Because
Trillion.
the hotels and all that stuff.
Hotels, food, crime, education, healthcare, you name it, dude. Over $1 trillion. Over $1 trillion for illegal aliens. Are you telling me that we don't have our own problems in America? Our schools are falling apart. Our hospitals suck. Our airports look like third world destination. We have potholes everywhere. We're $35 trillion in debt, and you're spending another trillion on foreign nationals? What about Americans? Do you think let's think about this. Do you think let's take a country, I don't know, Germany. You think Germany is going to be spending a, a chunk of their budget on foreign nationals to house, feed, clothe,
They
educate, and
do.
medicate? Yeah, they do now because of the Western reset, the global reset. Let's take El
What's that?
Salvador.
What's the Western reset?
So this is a global reset. This is not my words. They are theirs. So you are seeing what's happening in Europe is now happening in America. The major Western nations in Europe have been inundated with illegal aliens. The vast majority, single adult military age men from the continent of Africa and the Middle East. Who's coming over into America? Vast majority, 60 to 70% of every illegal alien is from a single adult military age men from the continent of Africa or Middle East. So they have done this giant migration from the South into the Western nations to systematically change the demographics. And now look what's happening in Europe. This is just what we're seeing on X and people that are investigative journalists because the regular media won't cover it. Absolute societal chaos. You have a rape epidemic in Sweden. One in
Yeah.
four women are raped.
1 in 4?
1 in 4, look it up. 1 in 4
Jeez.
raped. And where are the men? Let's look at what's happening in America.
Is a rape like a sexual assault or literally penetration?
Penetration.
Fucking hell.
Where are the Western men? Where are they? They're gone. Look, let's talk about something else that's horrible. All these women and children that are pouring across through Darien Gap, coming through Central America and Mexico. I would say in the last 4 years, you have 30 million. So let's just say a good, I don't know, maybe a third, less than a third. Just say 10 million for a rough number. Okay. Women and children, 10 million. This is not disputed. Left wing, far right, middle of the road, everyone knows 60 to 80% of every woman and child coming up to America before they even step foot in America has been raped or sexually assaulted. 60 to 80%. Meaning you give me 10 women, I have 4 sisters, a mom, my wife, my sister-in-laws, that's 10. They walk from the Darien Gap to Mexico. Almost 8 of all of my family members will have been sexually assaulted and raped. Look at what we have created as a government. America has created this. America has created this. There's no way around it. We did this. America. This is my country. Our politicians have destroyed us, and they're destroying the world, and they're allowing this to happen. Look, these people make a decision to come up. Granted, did they decide to make a journey to be raped? Repeatedly have their children raped, murdered,
Oh man,
killed?
I'm gonna get demonetized, but it's all right. YouTube doesn't pay me much. Uh, dude, can I ask you one question about, because we were talking about Europe, and I really wanted to ask this about the NGOs and the boats there. So I remember like 5 years ago, the narrative was like, "Oh, the ship is literally sinking, so we rescued them in the
Mhm.
Mediterranean, and then now we got the guys we rescued and whatever." But what I've been seeing lately is that that's not really, that narrative's not really the case. That like literally the European NGO boats go into the African countries' waters and pick them up like
Mhm.
5 miles off the shore of Libya or something
Mhm.
like that. And like they're not even like, one, they're not, shipwrecked. Two, they're not even like in European waters. We're just literally picking them up. I know you're not expert in Europe, but what the heck's going on over
No.
there?
The same thing that's going over there is happening here. NGOs are the evil apparatus of the federal governments. So you're having the same thing happen in outside America. The NGOs are international organizations run by Soros and a lot of open borders, globalist nations, globalist organizations. So you have this, I call it the Southern NGOs and then the Northern NGOs. They're all tied together. Same thing in Europe. They're going down, the NGOs are going down there, picking them up and bringing them into a country. Why? Well, one, because they're international organizations and they want to change the global power structure. And two, all these NGOs are being paid billions of dollars by our federal government, by all the federal governments. So if I bring over people, I know I'm going to get paid.
They get paid per head or something?
Yeah. So you're going to get, let's take our NGOs, for example. Okay. So they're going to be housed, put in a hotel for a year or two. They're going to get 3 meals a day. They're going to get free laundry, same day laundry service. They're going to get attorneys. They're going to get cell phones. They're going to get everything. So if I'm the NGO, the government's going to pay me to provide those services. And I take a cut of those services because I have overhead. How much is that cut? I don't know, man. And nobody knows because no one does an audit on the NGOs. And let me give your audience an understanding of what I'm talking about monetarily. In my documentary, Invaded, you're going to see an NGO person that works for DHS that electronically sent the checks to the NGOs. Not the guy that heard about it or saw an email. No, the guy that actually hit the button on the government bank account and shot money to Jewish Family Services. And I said, tell me what's the largest check you cut? Okay. I just cut a check for $600 million. What? I said, well, that's for like, is this for like 2 years or like a long 3-year contract? He goes, try 2 months, dude. I was like, what? 2 months. And I said, wait a minute. That's Jewish Family Services. So the guy in the cubicle next to you does Catholic Charities and the other guy does Lutheran Family Service. The other guy does United Way. Yeah, that's how it works. They're sending checks to all of them at the same amount. 600 million there, 5 million there. Do you know how much it costs for you or me to go get a COVID test at Walgreens, $7, $10. A lot of it's free, right? And then you swab it and you test it. Do you know how much it costs the NGO to administer a COVID test to an illegal alien? And
150.
what?
150.
Every illegal immigrant has to be COVID test. Try $2,000. $2,000. And as my source told me, said, so I'm an NGO. I take my group that came into San Diego. I COVID test all 500 of them. I send them to Maine. And then in Maine, I decide they need to go to Michigan. Well, in order to go to Michigan, I need to COVID test them again. So I double tap the COVID test at $2,000 a pop. And it costs free at clinics, maybe $7. If I buy it bulk, maybe $5. So the NGOs are making $1,990 something profit. Come on, man. This is what America, this is how you get to $1 trillion in cost for illegal aliens.
So, have you considered starting your own NGO?
No. I could have, if I was devious and malicious and criminal, I have the intellect and I have the wherewithal that I could have stood up an NGO and got one of these security contracts, and I could have made tens of millions of dollars in 1 year and then just pop smoke. Absolutely. Would I ever do that? No. I'm the same guy that was ripping loads from Sinaloa drug cartel, and I could have easily, without anyone knowing, received cash payments in the millions of dollars to
Yeah.
allow loads to go through. It's
You
easy.
didn't. Take a brick on the side and pay for the
Nope.
Kansas house with that or something.
Can't do that. I'm a strong believer in heaven and hell. And I think law enforcement guys that are dirty, I think God has a straight express for you to hell. So I could never do that. I
I
just
agree with
couldn't.
that. So, but couldn't you make like a good NGO and then like still apply for money?
What's a good NGO? What are they going to do? What's the service that you're going to? Okay, that's a good question. Tell me a service that you're going to offer as an NGO with the federal government. I'm going to create an NGO, and then I'm going to move people that I know they can call them whatever the hell they want to call them. They're illegal aliens. I'm going to move illegal aliens into America, and they're going to rape, pillage, and plunder America. Why would any American ever want to partake in something like that? And that's the best. That's the best case scenario for an NGO. NGOs are just, look, I'm
Even just like
Catholic.
a teach them math NGO?
Teach them math NGO. Yeah, you want to go teach them math? That's called public education. So let's look at public education in Chicago, for example. 300,000 students in Chicago school district, 48% of them are illegal aliens. 48%. And here's the
Really?
kicker. This is the greatest kicker of all. Illegal alien children test higher than our native Black residents. Why? Those illegal aliens don't speak English. Well, all of the money goes to after-school tutoring, after-school care, meals, everything, and they begin to outpace and outperform the Black residents. You think that's fair? How's that fair? Why are we educating the world? Why are we medicating everyone? Why are we allowing our nation to be inundated with foreign nationals? No one else on planet Earth is doing this. Canada may be the closest to stupidity because of Trudeau, but Canada is just a walkway into America. You have all your illegal aliens in Canada are coming in to get to America. The northern border is a sieve. We share, as you know, with Canada, almost 5,400 miles of the northern border.
Longest
There's
border in
less
the
than,
world, right?
yep, less than 1,500 agents work the northern border. There's no one on the border. America has never been this vulnerable. And again, you have to ask yourself a very simple question: why? Let's go back to Middle Ages. Why would, say, England completely have no walls, no castles, no barriers? Just France or Scotland or the Vikings, just come over and take everything you want. Just rape and pillage and kill. There's no difference than today. Why would you literally tear your walls down and welcome people into America and allow them just to storm in by the tens of millions? Why would you do that? You would do that because you made a decision to fundamentally transform the United States of America and using illegal immigration as the weapon, the vehicle to bring that to fruition.
And there's so many unfair things too that one situation that affects me and a lot of my clients and audiences. For example, my girlfriend's Mexican. She doesn't have the U.S. 10-year tourist visa. I think it's called B1, B2.
Mm-hmm.
The appointments are
She's not
like
getting
a
an appointment.
1,000 days out.
She's not getting an
So
appointment.
we made the appointment over a year ago, and it's in October 2025 or something like that.
If you're lucky.
Well, we have the date, but yeah, it was like 2.5 years out, and I think it's even longer now. Just to get a tourist visa.
Yep. Well, why do you think that is? What do you think's happened to the immigration system? It's completely destroyed. Let me just give you a couple data points so you understand why your girlfriend can't come into America. There are over 4 million asylum cases backlogged. 4 million and counting every day. There are less than 1,000 asylum officers in America. Okay? All right. So
You think with the $1 trillion, they'd have some resources for this?
they can't. Who wants that job? Hey, your caseload is 250,000. What? I don't want that job. So and then you look at over 5 million illegal aliens have gone through the court system, been ordered deported, and refused to leave. 5 million. You have immigration court cases for people that are crossing the border now, and their court dates are 2032.
Yeah.
2032. That's how absurd this is. This is all let me tell you so your audience understands the final, what's the game plan? What's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is Kamala Harris, which was Joe Biden, wins the second term, and within 60 days, you will see a full-blown amnesty in America. And the Republicans will
They're
side
going to
with the
have to. It might
Democrats.
just save us money at least.
Why would you do that to it? Okay, let's play that out. You say just let them get it. So illegal aliens reproduce at a 2 to 6 times the rate of a U.S. citizen. United States citizen women are not even reproducing at the replacement level. So I have 50 million illegal aliens in the country. They give birth, let's say a 4 to 1. That's 200 million. 200 million within less than a generation in America that have no allegiance to America, no understanding of what a republic is, no understanding of anything.
No.
And now we are upside down in a nation. America may remain the United States of America under its name, but it will no longer be the United States of America, which is the leader in the world. It's impossible. This is not my feelings or what I believe should happen or is going to happen. This is a simple math problem. That's all it is. It's a math problem with negative variables attached to it. That's it. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my background, the way I do my hair, the way I speak. You could hate me for all I care. But everything I'm telling you is factually true. And if you
And
don't like
you're
what
very articulate, I must say.
well,
so so here, yeah, so many. We could go for hours about this stuff. I mean, the whole thing is nuts. Even like say marriage visas, if you try to like bring your spouse from overseas to the
yeah.
U.S., it's like 10K in lawyer fees that
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're paying out of pocket. The government's not paying
Yeah.
that, and it takes a long time too. It's not easy to get a foreign spouse, a green card, and this kind of thing. And then it's like, why not at least like prioritize that, for example?
But yeah, why would you not prioritize that? You and I are trying to have a rational discussion in an irrational system. They don't care about the spouse. They need to inundate America with as many people as possible. 30 million in counting.
And a lot of the argument is because we need cheap labor because Americans won't work these jobs, yada
Yeah.
yada. Is that actually part of the real reason, or what is the real some of the real reasons why this is happening? You said it was deliberate and
Yeah.
intentional.
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe, and I wrote in my book, and I will prove it in documentaries, that they have done this strategically and intentionally to destroy America for cheap labor, for big business, and for votes. Every illegal alien that comes across the border is registered to vote. Well, they can't vote. They don't have Social Security. No, 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 no. Listen to what I'm saying to you. It's already been documented. You can fact. I want everyone to fact check me. Illegal aliens are being registered to vote. Okay? Why? Why would you have foreign nationals vote? Well, to change the power structure in America. Why do I want all these people to come into work? Well, let me give you a good example. Department of Labor came out with statistics last week and everyone lost their mind because last year 1.3, 1.4 million Americans lost their job, were unemployed. At the same time, 1.4 million illegal immigrants, not legal, illegal immigrants got jobs.
I saw that. I saw that
Yep.
chart. I saw
So
that chart.
so I so there's the answer to your question. So again, you may not like how I present it or how I articulate it. It does not change the fact that what I'm speaking is the truth. It's all over. The days of, well, I'm going to have to go buy a book and read it and no, no, no. I just go on Google and look at Department of Labor. That's the government statistics, not mine. Go on there, look at cbp.gov and look at their statistics, not mine, about the number of people coming the border.
Uh-huh.
Everything I'm quoting and stating to you is verifiable. Just like in my book, I had dozens of pages of citations. You don't like it? Don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. I'm just telling you what the hell's going on.
So, do you think it's the Democrats and U.S. interests ultimately, or do you think it's foreign interests, or a bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think I know for 100% sure it's a Republican Democrat. It's a uniparty, absolute
Uniparty.
uniparty. I, the,
So,
we
so
no
they, if
long,
it's uniparty, they must think it's the best thing for America if they're both doing it, right?
they're all enriching themselves. If you go back all the way to the beginning of my career, in 1997, I read. I've been an avid reader of this because I didn't want to just be the guy that just arrested people and what I wanted to know. Why am I doing this? What's the policy? What's the law? What's the repercussions if it doesn't happen? And what does that look like? I followed the polls, right? The polls, left wing, right wing, middle road, all academic polls, anything, man in the street polls. 80% of Americans want less legal immigration. Legal, 80%. The same amount want illegal immigration to stop, and they won't do it. Well, why? Why won't you do it? Ask yourself this. I'm going to give you an example. I'll give you a Republican example. Ben
Uh-huh.
Crenshaw. You know, the gentleman, he has Texas, he has lost an eye in battle, war hero.
Honestly, I
He's
don't know who that is, but
a
keep
Texas
going.
congressman named Ben Crenshaw, very popular, has a lot of voice, a lot of authority in our federal government. He has about 20-year career, probably the same as mine. I made way more money than an army guy. Okay, even with his wartime pay and all that, I still made way more money than him. We retired about the same time. He's been in Congress about the same time I've been retired, about 4 to 5 years. Ben Crenshaw is worth over $5 million. Can you explain that to me on a $175,000 a year salary? Can anybody in any realm of reality explain to me how a man that came from the army in 4 to 5 years is worth $5 million and that's the low end? Can anyone explain to me how Nancy Pelosi is worth over 150 million on the low end on a job and a salary that paid her $175,000 a year? Explain that to me. And no one can because they're all corrupt. All of them, Republicans and Democrats, all of
Mhm.
them. And you go back to child sex trafficking just for a second, just so you have an understanding. We don't have time to go through the people I interviewed, but you have to trust me. You'll see it on the documentary. High level people that are in the know, intel agency guys, people that wouldn't speak to me on the record, like on camera, told me off the record, we'll have a very robust discussion. They said to me, you have pedophiles in your government, in our government. And I'm going to tell you they are congressmen, plural, senators with an S, vice presidents, living, current and past, dead, and presidents with an S that are pedophiles. That's the truth, man. You want to look at a pedophile, you want to know what a pedophile looks like? You look at Joe Biden. Look at Joe Biden. Does any president or any man, think of this. We can laugh. You look at this. Does any man that you've ever seen, think of your father, your grandfathers, think of friends that you have, think of just men. Have you ever seen men reach down and touch little girls the way that he touches them?
I've definitely seen the videos. I mean, it's a little bit slanderous just to outright be like, "Yo, he's he's a that." But I mean, I've definitely seen those videos.
So you're okay. Here, let me. Okay, if you don't want to believe that he's a pedophile, then he's a sexual deviant. Right now, they're in Secret Service. My father's Secret Service. When he was vice president, they covered this up, but it's documented in articles, so you can find it if it hasn't been scrubbed. He held a party for his Secret Service agents at the vice president's mansion. He was groping one of the agent's wife so badly, the agent pushed him to the ground and was jumping on him to start punching the vice president in the face, and they held him back in time. That's the president. The vice president liked to swim naked in the pools. That's how he likes to swim, naked, where female agents had to watch him and guard him while he swam naked. This is the man that sniffs girls, touches them inappropriately.
Yeah.
My point is simply that we have a major moral rot in America that goes to the highest levels into our churches everywhere that has a profound impact on the United States of America. And we're living it.
I, there would have to be such a large percentage of Americans to be into this freaky shit to have this like be so rampant of an issue.
Well, this will be in my documentary, but I want to tell you. So I'm interviewing a guy, CIA guy, okay, an FBI guy, two separate guys. And I asked them the same question. I said, okay, we have so many pedophiles in America. I'm the president. I want it eradicated yesterday. Money's not an object. Tell me how much manpower you need. How many law enforcement officers do you need? And I'm sitting there. I'm literally waiting for I need about 5,000, 15,000, like max. Okay, to start, I need 500,000. What? I need 500,000 law enforcement officers to start. I'll deputize everyone, but that's what I need. I said, wait a minute. Are you telling me the pedophilia problem is that big? Both of them said, we're just going to scrape the surface, buddy. You have no idea. You have no idea. Do you know how much child porn there is, dude, for America to consume, to be the number one consumer of child pornography in the world? In the world. Not the top 5, top 10, or 100. The number one top dog that consumes people raping little girls and boys, the United States of America. We have a major problem here.
Hey, let me switch up real quick. I want to be respectful of your time and kind of only, keep this to less than 90 minutes. And,
Okay,
we're at
sure.
we're at about 75 minutes now. Random sort of self-interested question here for you. So as I mentioned offline, I wasn't born in the United States. I was born in Canada, but I'm a US citizen. And I spoke to a number of lawyers, and my kids cannot become U.S. citizens by descent because I wasn't born in the U.S. and I haven't lived the requisite number of years in the U.S. Even though I pay U.S. taxes every year, I work for U.S. companies, but I'm actually just not physically present in the U.S.
Correct.
Very, very little. Like last year, I spent less than 30 days in the U.S. So my kids cannot become U.S. citizens via me. And so I was wondering, could I just accompany them to I can't even get them a social security number and claim them on my taxes, which would save me probably like 10K a year in taxes or something. Could we just go in through the border into the US together? I'll accompany them from Mexico and then I'll get a social security number and maybe like a green card for them. Is that a thing that I could actually do?
Let's say that you found a smuggler that wasn't going to rape your children. Okay. Let's say it was me.
I'll go with them. I'll go
You'll
with
go
them.
with them. Yeah. Good luck with that too, my friend. They have rape trees on the border where they rip the panties off the women and children and hang them on the trees and make the men watch their husbands, fathers watch them rape their children so they understand that they are in charge. So let's say that you find the one smuggler that will do it and he's not a rapist. Um, yeah, ironically, you'd bring your kids over through, let's say, uh, Lukeville, Arizona. Border Patrol picks them up. Border Patrol takes you and your family. Uh, NGOs get you, and then you wait for amnesty. You wait for amnesty, or you wait to 2032 when you can see the judge and say, "Hey, I'm a U.S. citizen." Blah blah blah. Here's the thing that I don't understand: is you're a U.S. citizen, your children can derive citizenship from you. So whoever's telling you that's telling you bad information.
No, because I wasn't born in the U.S.
It doesn't matter. You're a U.S. citizen. You have the right to have your children derive citizen from you.
No, the thing is, well, I don't want to intend on correcting you, but
No, no, no. What are
what
they
what
saying?
I was told is I need to have been physically present in the U.S.
Okay,
for
yeah.
5 years and prove 5 years of physical presence in the U.S. in my
Then they can
lifetime,
derive it.
and then they can drive it. And I haven't spent 5 years in
Okay.
the U.S.
Yeah, that may I don't have my book in front of me, but they have so many cutouts. I'm sure that is one of them. That hey, you got to be physically present for this much time. Family can derive citizenship, but if a Canadian crosses the border illegally with his 2 children or 3 kids, how many children you have, they will be given Social Security numbers, and they will be given everything that you can't get. Is that fair? Does that seem fair to you?
I went on the Social Security website. I was trying to see, and they said I needed to have a CRBA to get them the Social Security, but I can't get them the CRBA, which is a consular report of birth abroad. I can't get that because I haven't done the 5 years in the U.S. So I can't get them the Social Security number.
No, I
Uh,
understand that. What I'm saying to you is if you crossed
yeah,
illegally, you'd
yeah,
get it.
yeah. So maybe I don't even have to do it from Mexico. I can do it from Canada because my kids would be Canadian citizens
Yeah,
because they were born in Canada, right?
yeah.
And then we
Cross
can
the
just
border.
slip in. We can just slip in through Quebec or something.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it.
uh, and
And
then
they're it.
they
Or
get a Social Security number.
better yet, you just bring them by Vance, bring them in your car, bring them into America, right? Just I'm here on I'm vacationing, whatever. I'm a US citizen. Here it is, and my kids, we're gonna visit. My kids are visiting. Then they just stay. They just stay and you
The
get
thing
a
is, I don't want to stay. I actually don't want to stay. I like life outside the U.S. I just want the Social Security number so that I can save over $10,000 a year on my taxes,
well, think of
as so
this.
I can claim head of household
Yeah, I
status.
know what you want to do, but I'm telling you that the only way to do it is to be illegal. That's the best way. I had a friend that was trying to adopt a child from Philippines. Could not do it. Just couldn't do it. It was going to be like 7 years out, and the child would have been now like 14, 15, 16. What's the point? But at the same time, we were arresting people that were running up the border and kids, and we were just letting them go. Just we're just. I try to.
Oh, dude, I lost your audio there.
How about now?
Now you're good. Now you're
All
good.
right, sorry, I must have touched something I didn't even know.
No, we're good.
So let's say that the last big movie that I went and saw that everybody wants to see was Top Gun Maverick, right? With Tom Cruise. So let's say you want to go see Tom. So what do? You don't wait the day of, right? You go get the ticket like 2 weeks in advance. The moment it comes out, I'm going to get my tickets. Me and my wife and my son. Oh yeah. I walk all the way up. I got my tickets in my hand. I walk right up to the guy at the turnstile, and he goes, "Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. Oh, no, no. Hold. I know you got tickets. Hold on. Hey, all right. You 400 people come in. We don't have tickets. Don't worry about it. Just go. Oh, sorry. 400 seats are gone, but I have my tickets. Nope. Sorry. All those illegal people get to go before you. I know life sucks, doesn't it? That's what it's like. That's what's happening in America.
In the school system and everything.
Oh,
Right.
we can't look. You and I. This has been a great interview. You and I have been talking for an hour and almost an hour and a half. We haven't talked about schools, social decay, crime,
I know. I
drugs.
know.
It's. I'm not saying. I'm saying that's how big the problem is. That we would need hours to sift through this insanity. But
So tell me this: how if I claim asylum in the U.S., we show up on the border. I show up on the border with my kids. We sneak in through Canada. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, government. Please don't put me on the blacklist. I like my global entry and my Nexus card. Um, but if we're going to do that and we claim the asylum in the U.S. or whatever, um, is there a path to citizenship, or do they just sort of stay on the green card status forever, or do I just wait for that asylum thing to drop when Kamala's president, or is there an actual path to citizenship?
no, and this is where this is a great question. And this is the moral evilness of the federal government. Okay. The best way for me to describe this to you, let me just take you through. Let's use you as the example. Okay. You, and I don't know if you're married. Obviously, you're not married. You have a girlfriend. You, your wife, and your two children. I don't know how many children you have. I'm just going to say two children from Canada. You cross the border. You're down in Mexico for whatever reason. That's how you wanted to cross the border. You cross the border, or you're up in Canada. It doesn't matter. I will arrest you. You will say, I want asylum for my family. You'll make up some bullshit. I'm a gay. I'm transgender. My
Cartel.
religion. Whatever.
Uh
Whatever.
huh.
Even economic. Even though economic is not an asylee uh, category. But it doesn't matter. They all say in the same story. I'm gay. It's like 20 million gay people and transgender or my religion or violence, whatever, right? So what I will do is I will process you within 3 to 4 hours, and then I will release you to an NGO. An NGO will take you, and then they'll ask you. Let me go back. I'll ask you, okay, tell me where you want to live. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. I know you don't know where Nashville, Tennessee is. That's you just give me some bullshit address. You're going to give me an address. I'm going to type it in my computer. I'm going to give you a form that's called a notice to appear, NTA. And in that NTA, you're going to present yourself on that little box. It will say your court date is 2032. Bear with me. I'm going to, on top of your parole, on top of your asylum, I'm going to parole you in. That's a whole nother long story, but I'm going to parole you in for 90 days. In 90 days, dude, I need you, your wife, and your kids to present yourself to an immigration officer, immigration judge, or asylum officer. Okay. The vast majority never get to Nashville because they don't know where the freak Nashville is. If they even want to get to Nashville, who's going to see them? There's tens of thousands of you trying to see one person. It's not going to happen. So after 90 days, your parole ends and you become what we call in our world out of status. And what out of status means legally is you are now an illegal alien. When you came into my station and I released you to the NGOs, what did I not give you? I didn't give you a work authorization document. I gave you no ability to work in America. None. And it goes back to your question, why? So now I have brought in people by the millions, knowing they're never going to see the judge, knowing that they're going to time out and become illegal aliens. So now I have 30 million illegal aliens. And what I have is a slave class of labor that's going to work for pennies on the dollar. It's going to shut their mouth and do what we want. American government has brought in 30 million people that are going registered to vote Democrat, that are 100% reliant on the federal government for everything, all assistance. And then they're going to work for the giant corporations for pennies on the dollar. Does it make sense now how this system works and how it's corrupted? That's how it's working every day, all day. As the United States Border Patrol arrests anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000 a day every single day since Joe Biden's been in office. And it's released them all of them.
Goes deep.
It's very deep. I appreciate you allowing me this much time to be able to articulate this, because this is not a surface level issue. This is a level that is very layered, complex, and it's layered and complex for a reason, because this is what they're going. Again, I always come back to end of a conversation like this, and I just say, if you don't believe in what I'm saying, like my conclusion, but you have to agree on what I've said or what I've laid out because it's factually true. If you don't like my conclusion, then why don't you tell me what the hell's going on? Why would your government bring in 30 million people, give them no work authorization document, make them illegal aliens? Why? And the answer is you can't tell me why. So then maybe you should take a look at what my conclusion is and give it a little bit of more thorough thought and in research and investigation. Because it's sadly what you're going to find is what I'm speaking is honestly and factually true.
Well, I can't wait to see the documentaries. I think
Thank
it's going
you.
to be eye opening for a lot of people, and I hope you do very well on the documentary circuit. I hope you win the Pulitzer Prize and all the Sundance Prize and all
Dude,
the.
I'm hoping I don't go to jail. There's no prizes. I just hope that I'm not J6'd for what I'm going to expose, and I'm going to name names, and you are going to be shocked at what our federal government's done. You're going to be shocked. You're not going to be able to unsee what you see. That's it. But I appreciate your time, man. I do. It gave me a lot of wide berth to be able to explain exactly what I believe and why I believe it. So thank you. That's podcasting is the new forum for information. So thank you.
No, thank you for all the hard work you're doing. When we say bye, hold on for 1 sec so the
Okay.
audio has time to upload. By
Yeah.
the way,
Sounds good.
we definitely don't want to lose this conversation. So, do you want to share any last message with the audience again? Where they can find you, the
Yeah, sure.
documentaries, all that good stuff.
The best thing you can do for me and my business partner, Ryan Matt, is go to thisistreason.com. Thisistreason.com. You can purchase DVDs there. You can purchase the downloads if you just want to download it. And we decided for $9.99, you can get both documentaries. We're not gouging anybody. We're not looking to make $50 a ticket. $9.99, get both documentaries. For $14.99, you can get both documentaries and then another 30 to 40 hours of behind the scenes interviews, so you can see the whole journey that we went on. Ryan and I financed this all by ourselves. The reason why we did it because we didn't want any third party to shelve it or have any authorship of what we wanted to say as we saw it. So it is what we believe, and we're going to show what we believe. We funded it ourselves. We have already sold thousands and thousands of downloads and DVDs. So I'm excited about what the release is going to be. So go to thisistreason.com and you can pre-order. And I appreciate it.
You heard the man. This is treason.com. $9.99 sounds fair to me. This might be the first episode I need to put like a warning label on or something like that. But no, I think we did a good job here today. So thank you, JJ, for joining us. JJ Carrell. You can also find him on jjcarrell.com. Two
Yes.
R's, two L's, and two J's. And on Twitter, right?
Yep. On Twitter, JJ Carrell 14. So again, thank you very much for your time, man.
Thank you. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, J.J. Carrell. Thank you to the audience for listening. Wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple, Twitter, YouTube, be sure to subscribe. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like JJ. You won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.
Thank you.
Hey guys, quick note at the end of the episode here. If you made it this far, you might be interested in working with My Latin Life personally to make progress on your internationalization plan. So whether the next step for you is getting residency in Latin America, lowering your taxes, choosing the best country, maybe a little birth tourism, whatever the next step is for you, of course, My Latin Life can help. We've helped people in their 20s, their 40s, their 60s, because I truly believe that Latin America has something to offer people at every stage of life. So if you want to become our VIP client, if you want to work with Vance, myself directly, book a call. There will be a link in the description. There will be a small fee for the initial consultation, and we do that to filter out the time wasters and focus on the best of the best clients. But if you're listening to this podcast and you made it all the way through the episode, I know you're the best of the best. But we're ready to work with you. So book that call. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the My Latin Life podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.